Hey everyone. I am back with another, what I think is going to be a short video. I'm not entirely sure though, because I don't, knowing my previous videos, they have gotten pretty long. But I mentioned in my previous video that I had a Dell r410 coming in a few days, and that was a few days ago. And so it came in yesterday, and I was really so excited to get it up and running that I just didn't even bother to film it at all. But now the excitement has kind of died down a little bit, so I'll go over how the specs and what I'm going to be using it for and everything. So there's the front. It's mounted with. I purchased a new set of ready rails, and they came in, and I don't think I've ever purchased a new set of ready rails before because they came in really nice packaging and everything with instructions and everything, though of course I don't need them because I've installed multiple r410s in our data center. But what I'm running here is, instead of using the 10 gigabit switch, I've kind of reset it to my original configuration. So this bottom one of course goes to my computer, and that's for all my file transfers, and then this top one goes to the r410, the top 10 gigabit port. So I kept both cards in there, and what I'm doing is I've created a network bridge in Ubuntu, so I have the same network. It's essentially like an Ethernet switch on the network. So that's what I've done there, and the cable just runs down. I've zip tied it a little bit, and it goes right back into the server. And yeah, so I've got iDRAC 6 Enterprise in it, and an LACP here, and I've kind of cleaned it up a little bit, and then just a single power supply. But my CPUs came in today, so now I need to install them. So I'll just unplug all these cables here. One sec, this one doesn't want to come out. There we go. And then this last one. And we'll pull the server out. So yeah, the CPUs I got are two. See if I can catch it in the light or not. There it is. Two L5640s. So I think these were actually released in 2010, even though it says 09. And we'll open up the front. This server is a little bit loud, but since I have this noise deadening case with all sorts of foam in it and everything, yeah, I really don't notice it much. And when I put all this stuff inside my rack in maybe a month or so, that means I won't have all these cables hanging over here, and it means that I should be able to reattach the door on the back here and use these cable holes here for all these other cables, and that would allow me to have a fully enclosed server rack, so that I can work on it and everything, so that I can silence it. I have the door over here actually. It's just this door. It has 4 fans on it, and it runs on 120 volts. So yeah, that's the back door, but it doesn't fit of course right now because I'm running cables through the door jamb. So let's just pull this server out. There's one tab here and another tab here. You just lift them up, the whole server slides out. Oh, and I'll just go over this drive real quick. This is a hot swap chassis, and what I've done is I have a whole bunch of old Western Digital Velociraptor drives. So I don't actually use the drives because they're only like 80 gigabytes. But the heatsink trays that they come with are really helpful for just drive adapters. So this is just a Crucial 240 gigabyte SSD, and I've put it inside this hard drive adapter thing, and now it runs like a 3.5 inch SSD, or 3.5 inch drive. So that's pretty cool, and it's hot swap and everything, and I don't have an SSD flopping around, that means. And it just works like a normal drive. Even though it's meant for these sort of like specialized, very thick hard drives and everything. It works perfectly. I've never had any problems. So, knowing this rack, actually, let's see if I can push this back. The wheels are a little tough because it's on carpet. I wonder if I can... Do I have enough clearance? Yeah, I think I have enough clearance. I'll come back when I've got this out of the rack. Alright, so it's out of the rack and it's on my table, out of the rails. I actually did end up having a ton of extra space. So that was easy enough. But this is the server. It's about this big, which doesn't really help very much. Maybe I'll go from the side. So it's smaller than an r410, maybe by like 4 or 5 inches, which that means it fits in this rack perfectly. But there's just this tiny little button here. Because it's a lower model server from Dell, it doesn't have the key. It just has this little button here, and it is not coming out. Let's just skip again. Alright, I am back once again, and I have undone the lid, so let's take it off. Inside, you will find just a very basic setup. I, for some reason, don't really recognize this layout of the board, but I guess it's probably because instead of a hot swap power supply, and there would normally be fans here for a hot swap power supply, there's just this single power supply, non-replaceable. Well, it is replaceable, but non-hot swap. So, yeah, that's probably why I see a different layout. But you just remove this, and you are this sort of fan shroud, and you are given the whole view of the server. So I have my iDRAC Enterprise here, and here's all the fans. This server came with when I shipped. It of course didn't come with this 10 gig card. This is one of the 10 gig cards. But it came with a tray. Came with two E5620s, and it came with these. It came with 32 gigs of DDR3. So that's a pretty nice deal for $140, which is what I purchased it for. And it has just this is the HBA back here. So see if I can remove it. Alright, there we go. So this is just an HBA. This isn't any sort of RAID card. So yeah, it's an interesting sort of setup they did with the r410. Instead of the normal sort of PERC PCIe RAID card, they this was like their first attempt at using a non-standard layout for a RAID controller. So they did pretty good on it, really. I think the SAS, I think it's actually an X4 card, and the SAS travels through the other X8 pins on this, which is how the drives are connected. And then on the riser board here, it has the mini SAS cable that you would normally hook up to the RAID card. So since I'm using Proxmox and I'm only using one drive, oops, I dropped it on the carpet, great. But since I'm using Proxmox and I'm only using one drive, I actually like having the HBA more than having the RAID controller, because that means I can just have simple direct access to the drives without having to worry about anything. I'm trying to get it back in. There it is. And come on, push in. There it is. And then it locks in with this little push button here. So that's back in. Anyway, I need to replace the CPUs, and I think that's pretty much the rest of the layout. It's just kind of a server. This is the whole board right here. So yeah, let's get these heat sinks off. Alright, so I've got the heat sinks off. I've just got them sort of laying around here. And it was pretty simple, especially fast using this Makita that I bought. I purchased it with another Makita normal drill for I think $150 off of Amazon Prime now. So that was a pretty good deal, especially since I've actually used this drill more than I have any other drill ever. And it comes really in handy because it they really did some good tuning on it. It just so happens to have the perfect amount of tension before it starts ratcheting in it, so it's perfect even for delicate stuff like putting on and taking off heat sinks and whatever else. But now that I've got these CPUs exposed, we'll take those out and we will put in our double our double L5640s, which I chose them because they're low voltage. I chose them because they were the most powerful. I've got to find a place to put this. I'll just put it on the table here. They were the most powerful CPUs, LGA 1366 CPUs that are low voltage because the energy here in California is pretty expensive. So I just got to put these in without bending any pins, and it looks like I've done that. Wiggle it a little bit and then push down this little lever, and that CPU is installed. So let's just take this one out then. Take that out. I'll put this one actually in this tray now that I've had it available. Wow, this tray is really messed up. I don't know. Like how it, that's weird. It's all bent. But see if it closes. Hopefully it'll at least close. Yeah, it does. Alright, we're good. So there's that CPU. And let's get the other CPU in. So yeah, I chose these because of the low power. And they're really powerful. And they were also cheap. I think I bought these for like maybe $30 a piece. No, I think it was actually like $28 a piece. So that's a pretty good deal. Just had a tiny bit of thermal paste, but that doesn't matter. So that's a pretty good deal, and they're 6-core, so I can do a lot more virtualization with them. Let's just place this in here. Don't bend any pins. Wiggle it around a little bit to make sure it's seated, and then push down the lever. And I'm going to clean these heat sinks up and get some thermal paste. Alright, so I've cleaned off the CPUs with just 50% rubbing alcohol, and that just reminds me, I should put the cap on before all the alcohol evaporates. But yeah, this is just 50%, and I just used paper towels, and I haven't had any problems since. And then I have this whole pack here. I'll show you now. I have this whole pack of just knock to a thermal grease that I've gotten from all the computers I build. Because when we build computers, or when I build computers for the IT company I work with, we use Noctua coolers most of the time. So the Noctua coolers always come with a stick of thermal paste. And so since I built quite a bit of computers, I definitely have a lot in stock. And those aren't used at all. Those are just fresh ones because I'll just use a single tube for all my projects. But I usually just do pea-sized things. But, oh, am I out? This tube may be out. Nope, I'm not out. Alright, so that's a little more than pea-sized, or rice grain-sized, but that'll work. And I'll do it on this CPU too. These are pretty large heat spreaders, so they should work, which is why, since they're kind of large, I'm going to put more on than I normally would, just so that it can spread out more. Cap that thermal paste, and we'll just position these CPUs while, ooh, this one got dented a little bit. I don't know how, but whatever. It's fine. Doesn't really affect it that much. But let's just put these CPUs back on. I don't think they're actually touching. I don't think it's actually touching the thermal paste yet, because they kind of sit on top of these all 4 screws until you actually screw it down, which is when it really works. So I wish I could show you, but I don't really have a camera mount, so I'll have to stop the video. Alright, CPUs are installed, and I suppose now all that's left to do is to put everything back together and put it in the rack and boot it up and see what happens. we've got kittens right now. So that's the white kitty. We just call him White Kitty. And then that's Black Kitty. We just call her Black Kitty. And we don't quite know what we're going to do with Black Kitty. We've adopted White Kitty, but we don't know about Black Kitty. She's just kind of here. But she's really nice. And for some reason she likes to bite the covers. It's probably because they were pulled from their mother maybe like too early of an age. So she just kind of bites whatever's in sight. But she's really nice, and she kind of she follows you around, rubbing against your legs if you give her too much attention. Which, I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it can get kind of annoying. But anyway, back to the server. Let's just put this cover back on. And we will put the lid back on and slide it back into the rack. And that reminds me, since I also have to stop the video for the rack, that I should really focus on buying some sort of tripod mount for this phone, because I think I'll be using this phone a lot more in my videos, because the video from it does look pretty good. So yeah, let's just get this in the rack. Alright, server is mounted. All we need to do now is push it into the rack, and let the latches latch, and now it's in there. So that's good for the front. Move it, White Kitty. Oh crap, I pulled the rack out, and so now, alright, push the rack back in. Now I gotta pull it out again. See if I can do this with one hand. Alright, that wasn't too bad. So let's plug this back in. Power cable. Ethernet cables. And 10 gigabit cable. Alright, and we'll go back into software. Alright, so I am now at my desktop, and let's log into the iDRAC, and I'll show you around that a little bit, and we'll boot up the server and see what see if it boots up and everything, and it registers everything. So I set my IP address to 192.168.1.19. Just go to that, and you can see it brings up the controller. Enter in my password, which is the default password, which is Calvin. Oh, wait, never mind. No, it's not the default password. It's an actually secure password. So let's just get that in here. The default username is root. I see no reason to change that. And then my password is my normal password. So, yeah. Let's see. The first screen that you get to when you log in is this sort of screen. So it gives you all sorts of readings, but the server's not on, so it's not actually going to tell me anything about intrusion, fans, or batteries or anything, because there's no reason to be monitoring that. And the server also needs to be on in order to monitor that. So we have all this stuff. It says r410, la da da da, since there's no signal since the server's off. But yeah, this is pretty much iDRAC. You get all sorts of different settings and stuff. You can set management tools and whatever else. But I pretty much just use it for the console, because I, of course, can't always hook a monitor up to my server remotely and have it working. So it's nice having this iDRAC that I can log into and get a monitor view of everything. But yeah, it's pretty simple. Anyway, so in order to get it to work, I'm using Windows, so it downloads as this sort of odd file. Though I get rid of this because it just is telling the user what sort of credentials it's using. But save it as viewer.jnlp, and that way Java Web Start just automatically recognizes it. So I save that, just click it, click continue, just say run whenever it says, and continue until it connects. And since it's off, it says no signal. But if I power on the system, and I'll be real quiet because it's possible that this condenser mic picks it up. So let's see. I don't know if it picked that up or not, but the server's now I don't know if it picked it up or not, but the server is now booting, so now we wait. All right, that is what we are looking for. So it says 2 6-core processors, has all the cache and everything, and it's recognizing all my RAM, and even the memory has gotten a slight speed bump. Before it was running at 1066, and now it's running at 1333. So that's really awesome that everything's working at its at pristine performance and everything, and it definitely it's recognized the HBA, so dropping it on the carpet didn't really do anything, and that's also nice. So we'll just let Proxmox boot up, and we'll get into the web interface. All right, Proxmox is now booted up, or at least it says it is. So let's drag up this tab that I've already gotten running, and it says it's running, and before it said connection error and everything because it thought that it was offline. But yeah, now you can see that it's updating everything, so it's all connected and good, and it's just starting up my VMs that I've set to start up on system boot. So let's go over to summary, and yeah, you can see there's my Xeon CPUs, 24 Xeon L5640s. So yeah, that really looks good. It recognizes all the memory and everything, and it's it's looking really good. So yeah, everything's all booted up now. Wow, that's using a lot of memory. I will definitely check that out. But anyway, now that we've seen that this all works, 24 CPUs, because dual 6-core CPUs, that makes 12 physical cores, and then since it's also hyper-threaded, which is 2 threads per core, that means we have 24 threads, and it's measuring the threads, so it says 24 CPUs. So that's a lot of processing power, really, or a lot of cores at least. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Once again, if you have any comments about the quality, if you say it's good or not, leave a comment down below. If you have any questions about how I set this up or anything, then also leave a comment. Remember to, it's always nice having community participation. So if you want to participate, become a part of the community, you are more than welcome to. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time.